Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for coming along to our Lunch and Learn series. Yeah, I'll give it a couple of minutes for everyone to jump on board. But for those who don't know me, my name is Doyle, and I'm the industry manager with Ecologiq. But for today, I'll be your host. I'll give it a couple of moments. I think we're expecting an audience of thousands. So now's the time to go grab your, if you haven't already, you can grab your popcorn and soft drink and settle in for our or your sandwiches for our Lunch and Learn series. So fantastic. So I think we've got a few more people just popping in now. See, we've got plenty here coming along, joining us for lunch. So and fantastic. So oh, we lost someone. Nope, someone's come back in. That's right. Look, it is 12:31, so I will get started. Again, my name's Doyle Lee, and I'm the industry manager with Ecologiq. But for today, I'll be your host. Welcome to our fourth Lunch and Learn session as part of our Lunch and Learn series here with Ecologiq. I'd like to start by paying my respects to the Kulin Nation as the custodians of the land upon which we are operating on. And to that end, our projects, and even though we're meeting remotely, that we do still work on and work and meet on traditional land. So we do want to pay our respect to elders past, present, and future. So Lunch and Learn series, each week we look at a different recycled material with on the ground specialists. And this week we'll be talking about recycled ballast. So I have Cheryl West, our strategic communications advisor, who will be interviewing John Esnouf from Department of Transport with a focus on one of our most problematic waste streams, crumb rubber. So this session will run for 30 minutes, and there'll be 10 minutes towards the end for questions. So if you like, you can pop any questions you might have into the chat function, which should be on the bottom bar of your Zoom there. And just to let you know that this session is being recorded and will be uploaded to Ecologiq Knowledge Hub and available on Monday. So if you're not a member, I don't have access to our Knowledge Hub, there's tremendous resources there, and you should definitely shoot us an email at ecologiq@roadprojects.vic.gov.au. So thanks for joining us. I'll jump straight into the session and hand over to Cheryl West. Cheryl.
Thanks, Doy, and welcome to John. Great to have you here today. Really looking forward to exploring your expertise and your long-term experience. We're talking crumb rubber today, and my understanding is there's about 56 million used tyres that are generated in Australia each year, somewhere around that, and I'm sure we're not making a huge dent in that. So we've got a lot of work to do. You've got a fairly extensive career background in crumb rubber and had some insights across the world into that. So perhaps we just start off with, if you can give us your title and tell us what the work is you do with Department of Transport in crumb rubber.
Yeah, thanks, Cheryl. Yes, my title's the rather grand Principal Engineer Sprayed Sealing Technology, but it's focused on sprayed sealing, but it also includes asphalt, line marking, and we've got testing services such as scrim and paste that are all in my area. So that's my official title within DOT. I've been in and around the black stuff within DOT and its former entities for over 50 years now, which is a fairly long time, I guess.
Yeah, it's a while. Good experience. So given that, where's crumb rubber being used so far, used historically, and how has it been used?
Yeah, well, I first saw recycled rubber, crumb rubber, being used way back in the early 1970s in sprayed seal applications. And I watched it grow from what was an experimental or boutique product way back then to a mainstream and high volume everyday means of improving performance of our sprayed seals. And we're also in more recent times, seeing it used in various asphalt applications, including, pavement layers and surfacing layers.
So why did you initially select crumb rubber for the spray seal?
It's quite, that's kind of interesting. It happened partly by chance. Back in the early days, crumb rubber was a byproduct of the retreading process of tyres. We used to actually retread our tyres back in those days, so it was a means of using that product, and it was trialled in sprayed seals and was very effective in improving the properties.
So why did you pick the recycled materials over an alternative material, say a virgin material?
At the time, we didn't have availability of the polymers like we do today. So there's a lot of commercial polymers available today, but back in those days, that market hadn't been really established. So we were starting from square one using recycled materials.
Right. Okay. So that was a very early use of recycled materials, wasn't it? Which is
Yes.
fabulous.
Yes.
So how is it currently used in the spray seal environment?
Yeah, it's used as a bitumen modifier to improve the properties of the bitumen over the standard class 320 or 170 bitumens, whatever you're using. So it's used not just to use it, but it's used to improve the properties of the bitumen.
So you actually get a better quality bitumen.
That's right. We're getting additional crack resistance, improved aggregate retention, those sorts of properties when they're improved when compared to standard bitumens.
Oh, that's great to hear. So what else can be done, and what else is being done?
Well, currently we've got, in Victoria, the recycled rubber is the major component as a bitumen modifier. And we're starting to move into using it in asphalt applications as well. So we've done a lot of work over the years in sprayed seals, and we're now moving into the asphalt area as well.
Is Australia one of the leading places in spray seal?
Yes, we do a lot of sprayed seals down here. America, Europe, and those sort of places tend to use a lot of asphalt or concrete pavements, different pavement structures altogether. But the main users of sprayed seals would be Australia, New Zealand, and South Africa.
Oh, right. Okay. Interesting. Is that because of the climate, or?
Partly the climate, not really climate, mainly the sparser populations. And in the likes of Europe, you've got very dense population and much heavier traffic loadings, and they're able to construct more rigid pavements in those areas. Whereas we're trying to cover massive areas of Australia with the cheapest possible way we can.
Right. Okay. So what is the future state and innovation? I guess the future state of crumb rubber. What evolution do you see with this material?
Yeah, crumb rubber, I think we've potentially, certainly within Victoria, maxed out our use within sprayed seals, given our current equipment and mixing ability and those sorts of things. In South Africa, they're putting in higher percentages of rubber into their seals, but that requires much stronger, bigger equipment, and probably uses a bit more energy in the process of mixing it in. So there's a balancing act between the value of energy input and improvement in the binders. But our biggest improvement, I think, or opportunity is in the asphalt area, where we should be able to put a lot more rubber into our asphalt products. So,
Ecologiq's very keen to get crumb rubber into more asphalt, and we're looking at trials for crumb rubber in open grade asphalt. Can you talk a little bit about that and any examples along those lines?
Yeah, look, we've certainly done trials of our own. We had a rather large project down on East Boundary Road in Murrumbina, and there were several rubber modified asphalts used in that project. And we got quite a few of our regional people, delivery people, are keen to have trials on rubbers, and I'm aware of some up on the Murray Valley Highway around the Swan Hill, Lake Boga area, and some of our metropolitan people are keen on using rubbers in some of their brews. So yeah, there's a big future.
So is it being used or trialled anywhere else in Australia?
Oh yes, there's major works going on in Queensland and Western Australia, in particular with open graded asphalts, but they're putting a lot of work into using recycled rubber in their asphalts, and we will, rather than reinvent the wheel, we'll sit back, watch that work, and try and adopt that as much as we can. You know, not to reinvent the wheel, but to use the good work that they're doing.
So is that something that you would encourage projects in Melbourne to do?
Yes, yeah, of course. Where it's practical, you don't learn anything unless you try something. So we've certainly encouraged trials, but they need to be well thought out and appropriate for the conditions. But definitely trialing products is a very worthwhile thing to do.
So are there sort of any issues that are associated with the trialling of crumb rubber that you'd be sort of looking at from your perspective?
Oh, there's always issues with trials. There's always the potential of something to go wrong. And of course, you hope to try and eliminate that as much as you can in the first place. But with rubber has its own series of challenges in handling and mixing and potential segregation of the product. But all of these things need to be and can be well controlled. But the one thing that we do need to be aware of is the potential for fuming with rubber in asphalt. And that applies to other polymers as well as just asphalt. So most of our modified bitumens have that potential. So as an OH&S issue, we need to be very aware of the potential for fuming.
Do you think some of these I mean, I understand that we need to be very careful and safety is really important. Are sometimes some of the issues more assumed or just because people are unsure of using it before? Is that where some of that comes about?
Yeah, there's a bit of both. The fear of the unknown, and people start to worry about things that aren't in fact a problem. But when it comes to OH&S, we don't want to take any risks or chances at all. So we're certainly very conservative in those areas, and that's led us down the path of in the asphalt area in particular of laying asphalts at lower temperatures and including warm mix additives and the like to try and keep those temperatures down to keep the fuming at a minimum.
This is probably a little bit of left field, but just wondering if you can tell us a little bit about the Austroads research happening with open graded asphalt.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of work going on in the Austroads area, and we're looking at going down the performance specification route. But most of the open graded asphalt research is happening in the Queensland and Western Australian programs, and Austroads is keeping a very keen eye on that work.
From a Department of Transport or Vic Roads perspective, if people were keen on doing a trial in their project, is that something you'd encourage?
Yes, we certainly do, but we don't have specific funds to go out and trial all sorts of products. So we need to incorporate that within an existing project wherever we can. So we're more than happy to help people get their trials into program works wherever we can by talking to our delivery people.
So what is the process if someone's keen to do that? And given there's a lot of planning for projects, what is the process that someone would need to go through, or a project or a contractor would need to go through to work with you to get that trial happening?
Yeah, well, the first thing, of course, is to talk to us and tell us what you're trying to achieve, what you're trying to trial, and then we'll try and find an appropriate location for that. And we've got quite a few of our rural people keen to trial things, and certainly our metropolitan people are keen to trial it, but it needs to be within a project that's already funded. So that's where the slightly tricky part comes, trying to find an appropriate project that's already up and running, and of course having a contractor that's willing to allow a trial within that work.
And when do they need to start talking to you about that?
The sooner the better, of course, but we're currently, the regions are planning their works for the coming season, so it may be still possible to get some works in the coming season's program, but you don't want to leave it too late.
Yeah, good. And given contracts are sort of being awarded throughout the year, I guess, would they be looking at very early in that contract stage or prior to that? What's the best approach there? I'm thinking with metropolitan and big build projects.
Yeah. Look, either or. If it's a very large trial, well, of course, it needs to be early on in the piece. But the smaller trials can often be incorporated within existing projects without too much of a problem. But it depends on the amount of work and what the trial really is.
So this is probably a bit of a cheeky question, but how hard is it to get new products through DOT? And what's I think you probably told us the process, but yeah.
That depends on which side of the fence you're on. We would say that we're the easiest people in the world to get along with, and we try and help as much as we can. Others might not think we are that, but no, I think in Victoria, getting trials done on the road is a relatively straightforward process, and we try and think that we're very keen to help innovation.
And I'm not sure if I missed this, but did you talk about whether there's the best time to apply it, like across the year? Are there better times to apply this product? And I can see we've got a few questions coming in, so we'll just finish up on perhaps this, and then we'll have a look at the questions. But yeah, is there a good timing for that?
Yeah, all roadworks are best done at the best time of the year. Once you start to modify products, you're getting a little bit more sensitive. So you certainly want to try and keep those to the better part of the year wherever you possibly can. But one thing we found with rubber in sprayed seals is it's a bit more forgiving than some other products. So that has been a bit of a bonus to us. But certainly trials are best done in the best time of the year. You don't want to set yourself up for disaster by doing a very expensive trial in the middle of winter.
Right. Okay. So in the warmer weather, is that?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And I guess one thing I've been interested in as well is that obviously in getting spray seal in the rubber in spray seal initially, you would have had a lot of learnings. There would have been a process to get it into mainstream. Are there learnings from that we can move on to getting crumb rubber into asphalt, or are we doing that?
Yeah, I think we're already doing that. Early on, we had a lot of problems with the quality of the product because it was basically sweepings off the floor of the retreading plants or factories. So we were getting a lot of contamination with fibres and steel and all those sorts of things. Well, all those situations have long gone now. We also was pretty well all supplied in bags, so there were manual handling problems. Those issues have all been overcome. So now it's a mainstream product. It's bulk handling and bulk mixing, so that those sorts of issues are all under control, and we're getting a much more uniform product now than we ever used to. The gradings are much more controlled. Over the years, we've tried different processes: milling, grinding, even cryogenic production processes have been trialled. So I think most of the lessons have been learned, and the product now is a fairly refined product.
So from the trials that are going on at the moment and looking across Australia, are there benefits? Are you seeing benefits from using the crumb rubber?
Oh, definitely in sprayed seals. It's been a major way of improving our crack resistance and getting better aggregate adhesion within our seals. So that's been demonstrated over a long period of time. In some specialist asphalt pavement layers, we've been using adding rubber for some years to get additional fatigue over the expansive clay areas. So we've got a lot of expansive clays out on the west side of Melbourne. So those rubbers, asphalts, have been used successfully over quite a period of time. And we're now moving into more surfacing mixes.
And so are you seeing benefits out of the tests with the open graded asphalt as well?
Certainly the trials we've done to date have all been successful, and they're all performing very well. And we're doing a very strong set of monitoring and observing of the trials down at East Boundary Road. And to date, we're quite pleased with the performance. Okay,
that's great, John. Look, I can see we've got a few questions popping in, so we might bring Doy back in. And we'll have a look at the questions that are coming into the chat.
Thank you. Thank you, John, and thank you, Cheryl. Actually, this might make it a little bit easier for our panelists. So the first question I have here is from Jessamine Welsh. So do we have Australian crumb rubber processing facilities, or is the rubber shipped overseas for processing and returned as a crumbed product? Is John?
Yeah, sure. No, we've certainly got very sophisticated production facilities here in Australia, and our specification requires that all the rubber used in our works in Victoria is from a TSA approved source, which would be locally produced. So all the rubber we're seeing on our roads is rubber that has been produced and sourced locally.
Fantastic, thank you. Our next question is there a problem with toxic fumes being emitted from crumbed rubber products? I think we touched on this briefly earlier, but
at high temperatures, there's some fuming. Those fumes we've been monitoring on sites, especially at East Boundary Road, and the measurements were all within acceptable, well within acceptable levels. So I would say no, there's not a problem. But if you overheat the product, then there is always the potential for the fuming to be some fumes to be there and for them to be potentially dangerous.
So that's something that would that be built into the standards and specs? It'd be something that you'd be
yes.
getting the product, them to look at.
Yes. Yeah, it's well controlled and by the contractors as well as by the specifications. Yes.
Thank you. The question about toxic leachate.
No, there's been a lot of discussion about this sort of thing. Rubber is a pretty inert product. Bitumen is a fairly inert product, and when it's the rubber's incorporated into the bitumen, we've got a fairly stable product. So we're not seeing leachate as such. So no, the simple answer there is no.
Thank you. A question here from James. Are there issues with crumb rubber blending with bitumen if warm mix asphalt technologies are used?
No, the trials at East Boundary Road did incorporate rubber and warm mix additives, so no problems.
And might say,
is it because it's new that people are unsure of this? Would that be right? Is that where because it's a new product, there's some concerns around some of these issues?
That's certainly one of the concerns, but also the reason for warm mix is also to reduce energy usage. It's all part of an overall environmental drive that we're more aware of now than we ever used to be.
I think Daniel there seems to be corroborating John with I think Daniel from the Mornington City Council looks like has been using recycled rubber wrap and warm mix technologies.
Yep,
before,
good.
So
yep.
And I suppose just following on that thread, is it a case of blending the rubber with bitumen first at conventional temperatures and then making the asphalt at WMA temperatures with the warm mix asphalt additives afterwards?
The warm mix asphalt is added, or warm mix additive is added during the mixing process for the production of the asphalt, and the bitumen is already pre-blended prior to introduction into the asphalt plant. So yes, so generally, so the specialist mix I mentioned where we use over the expansive clays, the rubber is actually introduced as a dry product into the asphalt plant in that case, but most other cases, applications, you pre-blend the rubber and the bitumen and then introduce that into the asphalt plant.
Thank you. So John, what's your opinion regarding the wet mix or dry mix in terms of crumb rubber digestion for asphalt mix?
The wet mix is more of an additive, more of a physical additive to the asphalt. It doesn't completely dissolve into the bitumen, whereas the pre-blended binders are much more blended. So they're different types of mixes. You can have a rubber that's almost entirely blended into the bitumen if you process it at high enough temperatures and for long enough.
Thank you. From James again, or is the blending of crumb rubber undertaken with bitumen with the warm mix additives at warm mix additive temperatures?
Yeah, the warm mix is added at the plant, so it's at the temperatures, the lower temperatures that are required, that warm mix allows. So we were getting, for example, on the East Boundary Road trials, we were getting asphalt on site at around 150 degrees.
Thank you. One from Bo. What are the limits to crumb rubber content in asphalt mixes? And apologies if this was covered earlier.
No.
What are the limits?
Percentage-wise, I imagine.
Hmm.
Sorry.
Probably
the
percentage wise, yeah.
So the question is, what are the limits to crumb rubber content in asphalt mixes? I suppose if there are any.
Yeah, well, look, currently we're putting probably around the 10 to 15% of rubber into the bitumen. And that, of course, is one of the components of the asphalt. So that's the kind of limits that we're looking at the moment. In sprayed seals, we've got similar sorts of percentages. 10%, 15% is the usual sort of rubber inclusion in our products. The South Africans are currently in their sprayed seals going higher, but as I said before, they're using much bigger and more stronger equipment that we're using, and bigger sprayers, larger jets in those sprayers. So it may be possible to go to slightly higher percentages, but that may involve additional equipment, new equipment.
Thank you. A question from Steve Helgen. With regard to rubber leaching, wear and tear of tires, leaving rubber on a road surface, which is washed to road edges or drains.
Yeah, that's right. That's what's currently happening with rubber tyres anyway. As you drive down the road, the tyres gradually wear away, and those small particles of rubber are left behind on the road, and they do wash off into the drains, but they're not coming out of the actual seal or the asphalt. It's
right
from the traffic that's on top of the road already.
Right. A question from Matthew. With which layers is it all used in?
Yeah, well, in sprayed seals, there's only one layer, that's the surfacing. And in asphalts, we're using some in pavement layers for those expansive clays. But we're now moving into asphalt surfacing courses. And the DOT have recently introduced a specification for low trafficked asphalt, which is mainly used meant for municipal use. And we're looking at moving into other surfacing layers and watching Western Australia and Queensland with their OGAs and SMAs and the like.
Thank you. Next question here is, can we recycle the asphalt with crumbed rubber?
Yes, we can, and we already are to a certain extent. But at this stage, there's no problems with recycling. You have to ask the philosophical question eventually. With all the additives into asphalt, is there an ultimate limit? There's no actual answer to that question, but at the moment there's no issues with recycling asphalt that has rubber in it.
Fantastic. I think this question is from Daniel. Is there any way to use crumb rubber as well as plastic to get the best of both worlds? I think there's some trials planned for this in the near future.
Yes, look, I'm aware of a rubber plastic sealing binder that's out there in the market, and I've actually seen it placed. So yes, that is currently available, but I haven't seen that used in an asphalt application yet. But yes, all these hybrid binders are certainly possible. We have seen another hybrid rubber and polymer binder as well. So yes, mixing and matching is a potential for sure.
And I think it sounds like a comment. Reuse as RAP has been trialled by WARIP project, and a report is on the way. I have a question here from Peter. For spray sealing, does the addition of WMA enhance the sprayability of the CRMB?
We haven't been using warm mix additives in sprayed seals much or yet. It may be a way of reducing our temperatures. I don't see any real problem there, but I haven't had any first-hand experience on that.
Thank you, John. And I think we've got over 80 attendees today, so plenty of questions and interest from the audience. Are there any specifications that are in place for DGA 10mm or 7mm for low volume roads with crumb rubber?
Yeah, like I said, the DOT have got the light trafficked crumb rubber asphalt specification in its suite of specifications. So yes, there is there, not for 7mm, it'll be size 10.
Okay, fantastic. I think we're a minute to 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
So, if there's no other questions, firstly, well done, John, for covering all those questions. I might add quickly, you've probably heard from John and DOT that the appetite is there for trials, but perhaps it's our projects that will have the budget and drive for this. So we are always looking for opportunities to trial new innovations in this space. And also mention that Tyre Stewardship Australia, as a peak body, also offers some funding. So if you're looking to trial innovations using crumb rubber in this application, that there's additional funding that's available there as well. If you have any further questions, you can still send it to us at Ecologiq at the email address that you see there. And if you want access to any of the information that we have, certainly join our Knowledge Hub, which again, you can just send a request to our inbox. I want to thank you and thank John and Cheryl for attending and presenting today. Next week, so next Friday, November 26th, our own Senior Implementation Specialist, Jana Sotelo, will be talking to Cameron Bain from Major Road Projects Victoria about the use of Reconifelt on the Duncans Road project, which is part of the Western Roads upgrade. So if you enjoyed today's session about crumb rubber, certainly come back next week for our next Lunch and Learn session. And again, thank you for dialing in and listening. I hope you've had some good takeaways.
Thank you. Thanks,
Thank
John.
you, John.
Thanks, Joy.
No worries.
Thanks, John. I think we've used your wealth of knowledge today.
Mm.
Did we drain your brain?
Oh yeah, but that's what it's there for.
Great.
Yeah, no, thank you. I think that was great. It was yeah, I certainly I don't have a technical background, but I've learned quite a bit more about crumb rubber as well. So yeah, so I hope that's inspired someone in our audience to reach out and maybe trial and progress.
Yeah. No, we're happy to do it. I didn't want to give them the idea that we to go and trial everything anywhere. We certainly try our hardest to encourage it wherever we can. Yeah.
And would you be a good contact? We've still got a few people left here, but would you be a good contact if we're wanting to direct?
Yes, certainly. Myself or Robert Boozadle are probably the first initial contacts. Yes.
Great. All right. Thanks. I might jump off, and thank you, John. It's great chatting with you.
Thank you. Enjoy your lunch. Enjoy your weekend.
Yeah.
No,
yes. Bye.
Thank you.
See you. Bye.
Bye.